Welcome to week 2 of the F.I.R.E travel series. I created this series prior to us traveling to Europe for 3 months. If you're new to my channel, my name is Jake. My wife and I retired from my 9-to-5 job by investing into real estate and the stock market so that we could achieve financial independence. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. In week 2, we spent the entire week aboard a repositioning cruise from Florida to Barcelona. This is more of a relaxing week because we spend most days at sea. However, a big cruise liner like we're on has a lot of amenities and things to do. We can go swimming, we can go and do a lot of activities. They have lots and lots of free food, buffets. My only concern is eating too much and putting on some weight. So I guess we'll have to see how that goes. I only packed, enough clothes for how I fit. Maybe that's something that I should do, is I should pack some larger pants, jeans and clothes and stuff. So just anticipating that I'll gain weight. I don't know. I haven't decided that yet. This week, the cruise stopped in Bermuda. So we got to go and explore the island of Bermuda. I'm excited to go and see this island. I've never been to Bermuda, but I'm actually even more excited to go to the next excursion, the next island that we're going to visit. And spoiler, next week, the island that we're going to be visiting, that's where my family, my great-grandparents are from, the island that we're going to see and visit next week. So I'm really, really excited about that. But more on that in next week's video. I'm excited to share that this video is presented by Snowball Analytics. Snowball Analytics is a tool that I use to analyze my dividend portfolio. You can check them out with the link in the description below and use promo code DGI to get the very best pricing. So this week, someone asked the question, do I still invest into real estate? Am I still involved in the real estate market? So if you don't know, I invested into rental properties in Austin, Texas. I bought my first rental in 2019. I bought my first house in Austin in 2019. So I bought 2 houses, in one rental, 1 house to live in 2019. And in total, I had 2 rental properties. Later on in 2020, I moved and we bought another house. But at one point, I was under contract to buy a 3rd rental, but we backed out when the market started to turn in Austin in 2022. Interest rates were a little bit, there was a lot of things going on. And we decided to back out. We didn't want to do it. And also, in addition to backing out and buying a 3rd rental, we actually ended up selling both of our rental properties in Austin. So we got in and we got out very quickly. And I'm very, very grateful that we did that, considering that, the housing market in Austin is down like 20+% from its high. So it's been pretty crazy here in Austin. But, we would not have been able to retire early like we did if it were not for investing into real estate like we did. Now, we had some really good timing with it, and I probably will never be able to have the same good timing again. So I do want to acknowledge that. But if it was not for investing into real estate, we would not have been able to do what we did. Some people invest into Bitcoin, it goes up and they sell it for a profit. Some people invest into tech stocks, it goes up, they sell it for a profit. What we did, what moved the needle for us, we invested into real estate, that went up and we sold it and we rebalanced out of that money into our dividend portfolio. So that's the history behind this question. The answer to your question, do I still invest into real estate? The answer is yes and no. We are now, when I think about real estate, we're only looking to own real estate, where we live as our primary residence. I'm not looking to become a landlord anytime soon. I did it. It was great while it lasted. Never want to do it again if I can help it. So I don't want to be a landlord again. I loved investing in real estate. It was such a great learning experience. Would I do it again? If I had to, yes, but thankfully we don't have to. So, but I will say, if you're younger and you're looking to build your wealth, I think real estate is a great way to build wealth. And it's what's made more millionaires in America and in the world than any other source of investing, right? So, investing in real estate as your home, it's not like there's a whole debate on this, right? Is your home an investment? And to be very clear and concise, no, the home that you live in is not an investment, but you have to live somewhere. Okay. And I view my home as a commodity, right? It's a standard of living. It's a choice, but also to a certain degree, it is an investment or a hedge. I see my primary residence as more of a hedge than anything else. And it's a hedge against inflation. So let me share a real story with you and why I always want to own my home as long as I know that I'm going to stay, like as long as I want to put down roots. One of my favorite quotes from J.L. Collins is, do you want roots or do you want wings? If you want wings, then go and rent. It's a no-brainer. But if you want to lay down roots, well, then it's also a no-brainer. Well, not always, but it makes it more of a no-brainer, at least for me, to buy a house. And the story that I want to share with you is I grew up in a small-ish town in northern Utah and born and raised. And, you know, if you didn't own a home where I grew up, today you would have been crushed. Housing prices have exploded. Rent prices have exploded. The cost of living has exploded, but wages have not really kept up. And that's a really key thing. Wages have not kept up. Also, you know, it really is a standard of living thing. You know, I know some people that have lived in the same, you know, I know them through someone else, that people that lived in a home for 10 years and rented, they always paid their rent. They were good tenants. Out of nowhere, they were forced to move. And they were forced to move because the owner decided that they no longer wanted to keep the home and that they wanted to sell the home. So the tenants, no fault to their own, were forced to move after having lived there for over 10 years. And because they were there so long and they were such good tenants, they had below market average rent. So they weren't paying a lot in rent, but they were in a good neighborhood. They were in a good area in the city, in the town, right? And so out of nowhere, they were forced to find a new place. But the thing is they couldn't afford anything in the neighborhood anymore because they were priced out and they were forced to find a smaller home in a less desirable area. And so I look at that situation, I look at that example. I don't want that to happen to me. So investing in my primary residence, my primary home, I see as, especially in certain areas of the country, like in places like Utah that are growing, it's almost a must if you want to maintain your standard of living and you don't want to be priced out of the market and forced down, you know, to move outside of town. It's a really unfortunate reality for many people. And so for me, when I answer the question, do I invest in real estate? That's the answer. Yes and no. I see my purchase of a home. We don't own a home in Utah yet, but when we buy one, I see it as an investment in the sense of it's a hedge against inflation, and it's a hedge that I won't be forced to move out of the neighborhood, you know, because of things outside of my control. This example you can use for most parts of the world, you know, whether here in the US or outside of the US, but that's how I view investing into real estate today. And I'm not going to look to buy rental properties in the future. You know, things can always change, right? But as of now, I don't see that in happening anytime soon. But when it comes to real estate, that's how I'm looking at it. And I think for your average person, it can be one of the greatest wealth building vehicles for your average person. But it can also be very destructive if you don't do it appropriately. If you get over leveraged, the market goes down and you end up having to, you know, give the house up. So make sure that you do it responsibly. But that's how I view investing in real estate. Thank you so much for sending over the question. And, you know, by you asking this question, it tells me that you've been following the channel for a while. So thank you so much for following the channel. And I hope that this answer and, you know, what I'm sharing with you, I hope that resonates with you and helps you understand my viewpoint on it. You know, if I was in a different situation, I would absolutely consider reinvesting into real estate. But this point in time in my life, nope, I think we're good where we're at. Yeah, and we still own our home. I forgot to mention this. We still own our home in Austin. We won't keep this home forever. We'll sell it in the future. Like I said, the Austin market has crashed. And, you know, we'll reposition this money. We'll probably sell the house here in Austin and buy something up in Utah. But I always want, if I can, I want to own where I live. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you haven't already, go check out Snowball Analytics. And thank you so much for watching. And I'll see everybody in next week's video.